The night sky over Earth was split open by fire. Long black ships slid down through the clouds without sound. They did not glow. They did not warn. They came like shadows with teeth. Inside those ships was the pack, a warrior species born for the hunt. They had crossed many stars for this moment. They believed humans had killed their cubs. And for that crime, the pack had come for blood. At the center ship stood the Alpha. He was larger than the rest, his scars old and deep. His eyes had seen wars that erased worlds. He did not speak much. He did not need to. The pack felt his anger like heat. It had grown every day since the cubs vanished. Rage was simple. Rage was clean. Rage gave purpose. The ships landed outside a broken human city. Tall stone towers leaned like wounded beasts. The air smelled of ash, metal, and fear. The Alpha stepped onto the ground and pressed his claw into the dirt. He listened. He smelled. He tasted the air. Humans had been here recently. Weak footsteps, broken breath, panic. The pack spread out, silent and fast. No loud weapons. No honor cries. This was not war. This was punishment. They moved through streets filled with dead machines and smashed glass. There were no soldiers waiting. No lines of defense. No proud last stand. Only empty buildings and dark windows. Some humans ran. Others hid. A few tried to fight. None lasted long. The Alpha did not slow. He did not look back. His mind was fixed on one thing, the cubs. He remembered the day they were taken. The alarms. The smoke. The screams. Small shapes dragged away in chaos. He remembered their soft sounds, the way they clung to him. His chest tightened. The anger sharpened. As the pack moved deeper into the city, something felt wrong. The Alpha slowed. The sounds were not right. There was no fighting ahead. No running. No screaming. Only quiet. Too quiet. He lifted a claw and the pack froze at once. They trusted him. They feared him. They followed him. He stepped forward alone, moving toward a low structure made of cracked stone and bent metal. It was not a base. It was not a shelter made for war. It was small, weak, broken. From inside came a sound that cut through the Alpha like a blade. Breathing. Small, slow, steady. Not human. The Alpha's heart hammered. He pushed the door aside with one claw. It fell without resistance. Inside, the air was warm. The Alpha's eyes adjusted to the dark. He saw the shapes on the floor. At first, he did not understand them. His mind refused to accept what his eyes showed. Then he stepped closer, and the world broke. The cubs were there, alive, whole, asleep. They were curled together, their small bodies rising and falling in calm rhythm. Their claws twitched in dreams. Their soft sounds filled the room. They were safe. The Alpha took one step forward. Then he saw the human. The human lay on his back, pale and thin. His chest was wrapped in dirty cloth. Dark blood had soaked through. His face was tired, marked with pain. One arm was beneath the cubs. The other rested over them like a wall, protecting them. The pack crowded the doorway behind the Alpha. Low growls filled the air. Weapons were raised. Claws tensed. One signal and the human would be torn apart. The Alpha did not move. His mind struggled. Humans were prey. Weak, loud, cruel when afraid. That was what the pack believed. That was what the galaxy said. So why had this human not killed the cubs? Why had he fed them, warmed them, guarded them? The Alpha watched the slow rise of the human's chest. Each breath looked like it hurt. Still, the human did not pull away from the cubs. Even in sleep, his body shielded them. One of the cubs shifted and pressed closer to the human's heart. The Alpha felt something twist inside him. This was not how hunts ended. This was not how revenge looked. Outside, the city burned. Inside, a human lay bleeding to keep alien children alive. The Alpha raised his claw. The pack held their breath. And in that moment, with blood and mercy sharing the same air, the Alpha knew this hunt was not yet over. The Alpha stood frozen, his raised claw trembling in the dim light. Around him, the pack waited. Their bodies were tense, ready to strike, ready to finish what they had come to do. The room felt too small for so many hunters, too quiet for so much death waiting to happen. The cubs slept on. Their small chests moved up and down in slow, even rhythm. One cub let out a soft sound, a dream noise filled with comfort. The alpha's ears twitched. That sound did not belong in a place like this. It belonged in the heart of the pack's home world, under warm stone and guarded light. The human shifted slightly. Pain crossed his face even in sleep. His fingers curled, not into fists, but around empty air, as if holding on to something precious. His arm tightened across the cubs without waking them. He pulled them closer to his chest. The pack reacted at once. Low growls rolled through the room like distant thunder. Weapons lifted higher. One warrior took a step forward, eyes locked on the human's throat. The alpha snapped a sharp sound from his chest. The pack stopped. No one understood what they were seeing, but all of them felt it. This was wrong. Not dangerous wrong. Confusing wrong. The kind that made old rules shake. The alpha moved closer. Slow. Careful. Each step felt heavy, as if the floor itself resisted him. He knelt beside the human and the cubs. From this distance, he could smell everything clearly. Blood, sweat, fear, and something else. Care. The human smelled of care. The alpha had no word for it in his language, but he knew the feeling. It was what bound the pack together, what made them fight harder for their young than for their own lives. His eyes followed the marks on the human's body. Deep cuts, burned scars, old wounds poorly healed. This human had suffered long before this night. Still, he had chosen to protect. The alpha reached out one claw, stopping just short of touching a cub. The cub nearest him stirred and opened one eye. It blinked slowly, unfocused. Then it saw the alpha. The cub did not scream. It did not cry. It made a soft sound of recognition and pushed itself upright. For a moment, the alpha feared the cub would be afraid, that the fragile piece would break. Instead, the cub leaned back against the human's chest, trusting. A sharp breath escaped the alpha before he could stop it. The pack shifted behind him. This was impossible. Cubs trusted only the pack. Cubs feared all others. That was law. That was instinct. The human's eyes fluttered open. Pain filled them at once. He tried to move, failed, and hissed through clenched teeth. His vision slowly focused, first on the cubs. Relief washed over his face. Then his gaze lifted. It met the alpha's eyes. The human froze. He saw the pack. He saw the weapons. He understood. Death was here. The human swallowed. His body trembled, not with fear for himself, but for the cubs. Slowly, with great effort, he shifted his arm to place it fully over them. It was a weak barrier, useless against claws and steel. Still, he did it. The alpha felt the room tilt. The human spoke. His voice was rough, broken by pain and dryness. "Please," he said, just one word. The alpha had heard begging before, many times. It was loud, ugly, full of panic. This was not begging. The human did not ask to live. He did not promise anything. He did not cry. He only asked once. The alpha searched his mind for lies. He found none. The human's eyes were clear. Afraid, yes, but steady. One of the cubs reached up and touched the human's face with a tiny claw. The human flinched, then relaxed. A small, tired smile crossed his lips. The alpha felt something crack deep inside his chest. He remembered enemies who killed cubs to weaken the pack. He remembered worlds burned in answer. He remembered promises of endless war. This human had done the opposite. The alpha straightened slowly. His claw lowered to his side. The pack gasped as one. The alpha turned his head and looked at them. His eyes burned, not with rage, but with command. "Stand down," he said. The words fell into the room like thunder. The hunt had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The pack did not move at once. They stood frozen, caught between instinct and command. Every lesson carved into their bones told them to strike, to finish the hunt, to spill blood for blood. Yet the alpha had spoken. His word was law older than rage, older than loss. Slowly, one by one, weapons lowered. The Alpha turned back toward the human and the cubs. The room felt different now. Not safe, not peaceful, but balanced on the edge of something fragile. One wrong sound, one sudden move, and it could still shatter. The Alpha closed his eyes. Memories rose uninvited. He remembered his own youth, when he had been small and reckless, when the world felt endless. He remembered lying among his siblings, warm and fed, while the elders stood watch. He remembered believing nothing could ever reach him there. Then came the first war. He saw it again as if it were happening now. Fire raining from the sky, stone turning to dust, cubs pulled from their dens by screaming enemies. He had fought that day with broken claws and cracked bones. Too young to win, too angry to die. Many cubs did not survive. That memory had shaped him. It had carved mercy out of him and replaced it with steel. From that day he had believed only in strength, only in fear, only in the rule that the weak must cling to the strong or vanish. And yet, here lay a human, weak, injured, alone, and still the cubs lived. The Alpha opened his eyes and looked again at the human. Up close, the human looked even worse than before. His skin was pale, his breathing shallow. His body shook with cold or pain, maybe both. Dark stains marked the floor where his blood had dripped again and again. This human should not have survived the city, let alone protected alien young. The Alpha crouched lower, bringing himself level with the human's eyes. The human tensed but did not pull away. His jaw tightened as if he expected pain. It never came. The Alpha spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. "Why?" he asked. The human blinked. The question confused him more than the weapons had. He swallowed and forced out an answer. "They were scared," the human said. "They cried." The Alpha waited. He thought there would be more. An excuse. A demand. There was nothing. "That is all?" the Alpha asked. The human nodded weakly. "They're just kids." The simplicity of it struck the Alpha harder than any weapon. No mention of reward. No hope of praise. No belief that this act would save him. The human had acted without reason beyond feeling. Behind the Alpha, the pack stirred. Whispers passed between them in low sounds. They had never faced this kind of enemy. An enemy who did not fight back. Who did not hate. Who did not take. The Alpha reached out and gently lifted one cub into his arms. The cub protested with a small sound, then relaxed when it recognized him. His tiny claws gripped his forearm. Warm. Alive. The Alpha felt his chest tighten. He looked down at the human again. "You knew what we are," he said. "You knew we would come." The human nodded. "Yeah. And still you stayed." Another nod. Slower this time. Tired. The Alpha straightened and turned to the pack. He could see doubt in their eyes. Confusion. Some even showed anger, not at the human, but at the world that had led them here. "This human did not steal," the Alpha said. "He did not kill." A low murmur spread. "He carried our cubs through fire," the Alpha continued. "He fed them when he had little. He shielded them with his own body." Silence followed, heavy and deep. One warrior stepped forward. "Humans lie," he said. "This could be a trick." The Alpha nodded once. "Yes, humans can lie." He turned back to the human and looked at his injuries. "But wounds do not lie." The Alpha lifted his head and made a sharp command sound. Two warriors moved at once, bringing a medical pack. The human flinched, fear flashing across his face. "We will not harm you," the Alpha said. The human laughed softly, a broken sound. "Could have fooled me." The Alpha did not understand the humor, but something about it felt honest. As the pack worked to stop the bleeding, the cubs shifted restlessly. One reached for the human again. The Alpha hesitated, then allowed it. The cub pressed against the human's side, calm returning. The Alpha watched this and felt the final piece fall into place. This human had not just protected the cubs. He had become part of their safety. And the Alpha knew then that killing this human would not bring peace. It would only create a wound that would never close. The war he had come to start was ending before it had truly begun. The human lay quietly while the pack worked around him. Their movements were quick but careful, guided by the Alpha's watchful gaze. Cold tools touched his skin. A sharp sting made him gasp, but he did not pull away. His eyes stayed on the cubs the entire time, counting their breaths as if that alone kept them alive. The Alpha noticed. Most beings watched their enemies in moments like this. This human watched the young. When the bleeding slowed, the Alpha raised one claw and the warriors stepped back. The human's chest still rose with effort, but the worst danger had passed. Sweat covered his face. His lips were dry and cracked. The Alpha crouched again, studying him. "You could have left," the Alpha said. "When you saw what we are." The human swallowed. "Tried once." The Alpha waited. "They followed me," the human continued. "Wouldn't stop crying. I couldn't just drop them." The Alpha felt a strange pull in his chest. He understood that word. Drop. The pack had dropped many things in war. Enemies, cities, entire worlds. Dropping was easy. Holding on was not. Outside, distant explosions echoed through the city. Other pack units were still hunting, still destroying. The Alpha knew he would have to answer for that soon. But not yet. One of the cubs woke fully and lifted its head. Its eyes searched the room until they found the human. It made a soft sound and crawled closer, pressing its head against his shoulder. The human winced but did not push it away. "Hey," he whispered. "It's okay." The pack froze. No one had ever spoken to a cub that way except their own kind. The Alpha watched closely, ready to react. But the cub relaxed, its breathing evening out once more. Trust settled like a weight in the room. The Alpha rose to his full height. He turned to the pack and spoke loudly enough for all units to hear through their communicators. "Cease the hunt," he ordered. Shock rippled through the pack. Some warriors looked at one another, unsure they had heard correctly. The Alpha repeated the command. "Cease the hunt. Fall back." One by one, confirmations came in. Confusion, anger, questions. The Alpha ignored them all. He looked back at the human. "You will come with us." The human stiffened. Fear flashed in his eyes at last. "If you're going to kill me," he said, "do it now. Don't make them watch." The Alpha shook his head. "You misunderstand." The human frowned. "Then what?" The Alpha did not answer right away. He was still searching for the right truth. "You saved what was ours," he said finally. "That creates a debt." The human let out a weak breath that might have been a laugh. "Great. I always wanted to owe alien wolves." The Alpha did not understand the words, but he heard the tone. The human was not trying to insult. He was tired. Beyond fear now. Beyond anger. He had reached the point where only honesty remained. The Alpha turned and made another signal. A transport stretcher was brought in. The warriors hesitated as they approached the human. Touching prey felt wrong. Carrying it felt worse. The Alpha watched until they moved gently. As the human was lifted, one of the cubs cried out. The small claws reached toward him. The Alpha paused. He made a decision that would echo through the pack for generations. "Leave them with him," he said. The warriors stared at him. "Alpha." "They choose him," the Alpha replied. "That matters." The cubs were placed back against the human's chest. Their cries stopped at once. The human closed his eyes in relief, pain forgotten for a moment. The Alpha watched the scene burn into his memory. Strength, weakness, care, all twisted together in a way the old rules could not explain. As they left the shelter, the Alpha looked out over the ruined city. Fires burned. Smoke climbed toward the sky. The pack's wrath had already scarred this world. But the war had ended here, not with a kill, with a human who stood still in the face of death and chose to protect instead. The Alpha knew the galaxy would never believe this story, but belief no longer mattered. The truth walked beside him now, bleeding, breathing, and holding the future of his people close to a fragile human heart. The transport moved slowly through the dark streets. The pack surrounded it in silence, weapons lowered but senses sharp. The city no longer felt like enemy ground. It felt like a place holding a question none of them had expected to face. Inside the transport, the human lay still, the cubs pressed against his chest. Their small bodies rose and fell with his breathing, matching his rhythm as if they had always belonged there. The alpha watched them closely. Every instinct told him this was wrong. Every memory told him this was dangerous. And yet, the cubs were calm. That fact weighed more than any rule. The alpha remembered the old laws of the pack. Mercy was weakness. Trust was foolish. Prey was prey, no matter what it did. These laws had kept them alive across centuries of war. They had built an empire of fear and respect. But those laws had never explained this moment. The human stirred as pain pulled him awake again. His eyes opened slowly. He looked around, confused, then tense when he realized he was no longer in the shelter. His arms tightened around the cubs without thought. "Easy," the alpha said. The human focused on him. "Where are we going?" The alpha considered lying. It would have been simple. He chose not to. "To our ship," he said. The human's jaw tightened. "Figures. You believe we will kill you," the alpha said. The human did not answer right away. "I believe you can," he said finally. "That's usually how this ends." The alpha felt the weight of those words. How many species had learned that same lesson because of the pack? "You stood between us and our young," the alpha said. "Why?" The human looked down at the cubs. One had wrapped a tiny claw around his finger. He gave a weak smile. "Because no one else did." The alpha had no reply. When they reached the ship, the pack parted. Many eyes followed the human. Some were hard. Some were unsure. A few held something close to respect. Inside the ship, the air was clean and bright. Medical lights turned on at once. The alpha ordered the healers forward. They hesitated. "This one is not pack," one said. "He is under my word," the alpha replied. That ended the argument. As the healers worked, the alpha stood back and watched. The human's wounds were worse than he had thought. Infection had set in. Broken bones had been ignored so the cubs could be carried. Any pack warrior in this state would have been left behind long ago. Yet the human had kept walking. The alpha felt a tightness in his chest again. He did not push it away this time. Hours passed. The cubs were finally taken from the human gently, one by one. They protested at first, small cries filling the chamber. The human reached out weakly, panic flashing across his face. "They're okay," the alpha said. The cubs were placed in a nearby nest space. As soon as they saw the alpha, they calmed. Still, they watched the human closely, as if afraid he might vanish. The human slept at last. When he woke, the alpha was alone with him. The ship hummed softly around them. Stars moved past the window in slow lines of light. "You're not dead," the human said, voice dry. "No," the alpha replied. "Did I win a prize?" The alpha did not understand humor well, but he sensed this was not mockery. "You won survival," he said. The human nodded slowly. "Good. I wasn't done yet." The alpha studied him. "If we had come earlier," he said, "you would be dead." The human met his gaze. "If you had come later," he said, "they would be." Silence followed. The alpha turned away and looked at the stars. He thought of the message he would have to send to the pack fleets. He thought of the councils, the questions, the anger. Choosing mercy would be seen as weakness, but choosing blood now would be a lie. The alpha made his decision. "We will leave this world," he said, "and we will not return as enemies." The human stared at him. "Just like that?" "No," the alpha said, "not just like that, because of what you did." The human closed his eyes. A long breath left his body, heavy with exhaustion and relief. Then, "I'm glad I didn't drop them." The alpha looked at him one last time, at the fragile body that had carried the future of his species through fire and fear. The pack had come to slaughter humans. Instead, the alpha had found a reason to stop. And that choice would change the fate of more than just one world. The pack ships rose from Earth without ceremony. No victory cry echoed through space. No burning cities followed them into the sky. They left behind silence, smoke, and a world that still stood. From orbit, Earth looked small and fragile, a blue shape scarred by fire but not broken. Inside the Alpha's ship, the human rested in a healing chamber. Tubes fed medicine into his veins. Soft light repaired what pain and effort had damaged. He slept deeply, his body finally allowed to stop fighting. Nearby, the cubs played. They tumbled over one another, clumsy and loud, their fear fading with every passing hour. They returned often to the glass wall that separated them from the human, pressing small paws against it as if checking that he was still there. The Alpha watched them from a distance. They had survived. More than that, they had learned something new. When the human woke again, he was stronger. The pain was still there, but it no longer ruled him. The Alpha stood waiting, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the stars outside. "So," the human said slowly, testing his voice, "am I a prisoner?" The Alpha turned. "No." "Guessed." "Yes." The human nodded. "Didn't see that coming." "Few things worth remembering do," the Alpha replied. The human looked toward the cubs. "They okay?" "They are," the Alpha said. "Because of you." The human shrugged slightly. "Anyone would have done it." The Alpha shook his head. "No, they would not." That truth settled between them. Days later, the pack reached the border of their space. The Alpha sent a message ahead. It was short, clear, carried his authority. "The hunt is ended. The cubs live. The human lives. There will be no war." The response was not calm. Questions came first, then anger, then disbelief. Some Alphas challenged him. Others accused him of weakness. A few demanded proof. The Alpha gave them the truth. He showed them the cubs sleeping safely. He showed them the wounds on the human's body. He showed them recordings from the city. A human standing still, bleeding, arms spread to shield what was not his. Silence followed across the pack networks. Old warriors watched the images again and again. Elders argued late into the cycles. Young ones listened and learned without speaking. No one could deny what they saw. The Alpha addressed them all. "Strength is not only in claws," he said. "Fear is not the only rule. This human protected our future when he had nothing to gain. Some called it foolish. Some called it rare. But none called it false." The human was returned to Earth days later. The pack did not land in fire this time. They came openly, carefully. They repaired what they could. They left supplies where cities had fallen. They did not stay. Before he left, the Alpha met the human one last time. "You will be remembered," the Alpha said. The human gave a tired smile. "I'd rather be forgotten." "That choice is no longer yours," the Alpha replied. The cubs pressed close to the Alpha as the human stepped back onto Earth's soil. One of them made a soft sound and lifted a paw in an awkward motion. The human raised his hand in return. Then the ships rose and they were gone. The galaxy heard the story slowly at first. In whispers, in broken reports. An empire that had come for blood had left without killing. An Alpha who had ruled by fear had chosen restraint. First, no one believed it. Then the pack stopped raiding border worlds. Then they began to speak instead of strike. Not often, not easily, but enough that others noticed. Other species remembered. They remembered that humans were fragile, that their bodies broke easily, that their weapons were not always the strongest. They also remembered that when the young cried in the dark, it had been a human who answered. The Alpha often thought of that night on Earth, of the moment he had raised his claw and lowered it again, of how close the galaxy had come to burning. He did not regret his choice. The pack had arrived for slaughter. They had found mercy instead. And because of one human who stood still in the face of death, the galaxy learned a new truth. Humans did not rule by fear. They endured. And sometimes that was far more powerful.